A massive explosion and a massive fire has caused a shelter-in-place order right outside of Chicago, Illinois. And if it was me personally, I would not be sheltering in place. I would be evacuating the situation because toxic chemicals are being released into the air and it is destroying people's vehicles. People are saying that it's like green food coloring is raining down from the sky. That's what people are saying that experienced this situation. So let's get into the details here. It says massive fire reported at Salle Chemical Plant. Residents asked to quote shelter in place. This is today, January 11th, 2023, and this is right outside of Chicago, approximately 80 miles outside of Chicago. This happened. So emergency crews, and I will show pictures of everything in just a second. I will show pictures of people's cars being destroyed from these chemicals, all this stuff in just a second. I just want to get to the details. Emergency crews are on the scene in LaSalle County after a large 4-alarm fire was reported at a chemical plant in the area. Officials have confirmed. According to the LaSalle police, around 9 a.m. Wednesday, a quote explosion occurred in a shipping container in the shipping department of the Salle Chemical Plant located at 1500 A Street in LaSalle, located 80 miles southwest of Chicago. City officials released a statement about the incident saying that there was a fire in the Salle Chemical building. Residents living nearby are asked to please shelter in place. And I saw people saying that they were picking up their kids from the situation and they were just worried about them because they were right in the line of these chemicals being released. So their school was, so they were picking up their kids from school and they were still seeing this massive smoke plume, green smoke, traveling throughout their region. All right. And you can see here the LaSalle Police Department says due to recent events, a oxidizer, which appears green in color, has been released in the area. Do not touch this substance. If you see this substance near on your residence, it can be deactivated. In order to deactivate it, you need a 1-1 mixture of 1 gallon of water, 1 gallon of peroxide, and 1 gallon of vinegar. That's what they posted today on their Facebook. And you can see why they're telling you not to touch these things. We will get to the pictures of the plant and everything in just a second, but I wanted to touch on these chemicals because this is serious. Look at what it's doing to people's cars that were directly hit with these chemicals. This is an oxidizer, and it is oxidizing the metal on people's cars. Okay? This is how serious this is. And this is what multiple cars in the region look like now, have been destroyed, and the paint has been oxidized, essentially rusted off. All those are essentially lots of rust stains from the oxidization of this green chemical that was released. And people are just being told to shelter in place and breathe it in their homes, all right? So let's get into this scene here. You can see that there was a massive fire at this chemical plant and an explosion, and you can see they have multiple fire crews on the scene. It says that they have put out the main fire, but it's still smoldering and releasing a lot of smoke and chemicals into the air. Okay, it's one of these things. There's a closer up picture that you can see. And here's another one from a neighborhood, smoke just billowing into the neighborhood all around the surrounding areas, okay? And it's one of these things where we're getting hit with these chemicals all the time. They're everywhere. They're in our water, they're in the air, they're everywhere, all right? And when a massive release like this happens, we could see like increase in cancer, increase in certain diseases related to these chemicals in these regions. This happens all the time where there's contaminated water, contaminated wells, contaminated regions. I used to live in a region in Florida where all the orange groves are grown, and by law you have to have this very specific heavy duty filter on your well system to pull the water out of the ground because the ground is contaminated with these chemicals that were used to kill nematodes back in like the 50s and 60s, and they realized this chemical was extremely toxic, and now it's by law you have to have this special filter on your water in this one part of Florida where all the orange groves are grown to have a well, all right, because the soil is contaminated. It's like this all over the place, and it's correlated to increase in these diseases, increase in cancer, increase in all this stuff when these chemical exposures happen. All right, so let's hope that these people are okay. Let's hope that they don't have increased odds of this happening, but it's one of these things, exposure to these chemicals. Probably already living next to this plant, they're probably at an increased risk. This is why living out in the country, out in the forest, out in the woods is your best bet for freshest air and to get away from all this stuff, right? Even when I go into the city, it just smells different. You can just smell it. It just smells like cars and gas and all that stuff. I can just smell it because I don't live in the city. And when I go in there, it's almost hard to breathe, all right? And you can see here's some more pictures of the devastation there, all right? Releasing tons of chemicals into the air. And I know it's one of these things, there's chemicals released in the air all the time, but regionally, these people's houses are right here. They are being affected heavily by this. I mean, look at this car, all right? Look at this car oxidizing the metal on the car in real time. And people were saying they had their kids, blocked off, all the windows closed, and people were saying that they were interviewing and they moved the kids to different rooms because it started smelling. The smell started creeping into their house, and they're like, this doesn't smell right. This smells like a chemical. Like, you know what I mean? You don't want to be smelling this. It's just common sense. When you smell some weird chemical, you want to get away from it, right? And they're just moving to different rooms in their house. They're just kind of cornered and they have nowhere to go. That's why I was saying if I was in this situation, I would most likely evacuate. All right, I know not everyone can do that, but you're just kind of a sitting duck there and allowing these chemicals and the smoke to fill your house and your air here. All right, so if you are in the area, make sure to use this mixture to deactivate. And this mixture is also could be used for tons of different chemicals. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know this is a neutralizing mixture. 1 gallon of water, 1 gallon of peroxide, 1 gallon of vinegar. That's a very alkalinic, neutralizing mixture for lots of chemicals. All right, so make sure if you are in this area, you are using this mixture to clean all the surfaces, because there was even people being interviewed. This person interviewed for their car. They kept touching it, and the person interviewing him was like, oh, please stop touching it. You're going to get these chemicals all over your hands. And he was saying his car was all green before, and then it turned all brown and oxidized and rusted out the paint. All right, so imagine what it's doing to you. So get prepared, guys. Make sure you have even if you're not in this situation, write down this mixture here. This mixture could be used in tons of different scenarios to neutralize chemicals, all right? Neutralize tons of different things. So get this mixture down, have it memorized, have it part of your preparedness in case there is some kind of chemical event. A couple months ago, this happened it was Washington, I believe. I made a video on it. I'm pretty sure it was Washington or Oregon. It was right up there in the Northeast. There was another chemical plant that exploded and people were told to shelter in place. This was probably in October or September last year. All right, so it could happen. You never know. Be prepared, guys. Make sure you have these things on your list of preparedness in your pantry, stocked up on these things, because you never know. It's better to have it than to not have it, all right? And you guys hit that like button, hit that thumbs up, hit that sub for me. Did you hear about this story? Make sure you stay prepared, and you guys have a big old blessed day. Thank you.